Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I probably look a little bit different today because I don't have my belly anymore. So this is my first official video as a mommy. I had my baby girl on October the 14th. She was a full moon baby and my husband and I are over the moon. We are head over heels in love with her. She is just such an angel. So the last couple of videos that you guys have seen have obviously been pre-filmed. I did make an official announcement on my Instagram a few days after she was born because I just wanted to give myself some time and my husband some time to adjust and just like savor every single moment with her before we made any public announcements. So if you guys did want to see the announcement photos or if you wanted to see any updates, I do a lot of my updates in real time over on Instagram, so I highly recommend you checking that out. I also did a Q&A recently on my Instagram and a lot of you guys wanted to know my birth story, and this is honestly a subject that I was debating whether or not to share publicly because I am a very private person. So I decided that, you know what, I would share my story even though it was a very difficult labor and it was a very traumatic experience for me. It seems like a lot of you guys really want to know what happened, so that is why I am making this video. At the end of the day, I just want to be super transparent with you guys. I'm always super transparent with you guys, and I just wanted to make a quick disclaimer to say that every pregnancy is different, every labor is different, so just because I had this experience doesn't mean that you will. You might have a worse experience, a better experience, you never really know. And I also have to kind of remind myself that just because my labor went the way that it went, it doesn't mean that my next labor will go that way as well, which I'm praying that it won't. I also wanted to quickly preface that from the moment I got pregnant, it was really important to me that I had a natural birth without epidural or any drugs. So to prepare my mind and body for this, I did practice hypnobirthing for several months leading up to my labor. And although in my personal situation, my hypnobirthing practice didn't end up working for me, it's still a practice that I really believe in because I know a lot of women, including some of my friends that have practiced hypnobirthing, and they have had nothing but incredible experiences with it. I just think that for myself personally, the way that I labored, hypnobirthing was not really compatible with me. That is all I wanted to say in the intro. I just wanted to quickly put out the disclaimer and the preface, and I have all of my notes on what happened in sequence in front of me so that I don't forget anything. So here we go. All right, so the 2 days leading up to my labor, I was apparently having pre-labor contractions, which I didn't know. I honestly thought that I was just having more intense Braxton Hicks contractions because everything that I read on Google kind of didn't really line up with what I was feeling. Now, I do want to comment that I have a very high pain tolerance. So I feel like that has really thrown off my intuition, I guess, when it came to certain things that I was feeling. Another thing that really threw off my intuition was the fact that my mom was overdue with both my brother and I. So I thought that because she was overdue with both me and my brother, that I would be overdue with my baby as well. I honestly did not think that I would be delivering her before my due date. So Saturday, October the 12th, I had contractions all day long. They became more intense at night and then they eased up at night. So my Braxton Hicks contractions started around the same time that I started my third trimester. In the beginning, they were very sporadic. I would get them maybe a couple of times a week, and it would just be like a tightening of the stomach for a few seconds and then it would just release. And as I progressed through the third trimester, the Braxton Hicks contractions started to become slightly more intense, slightly more frequent, but nothing uncomfortable or painful for that matter. In fact, if I was working or if I was busy running around and running errands or something, I would not even pay attention to them and I wouldn't even feel them. It's only when I'm really still and usually when I'm relaxed, when I go to bed, that's usually when I notice them more. I think the last week or two, I would say, those contractions started to get a lot more frequent and a lot more intense, especially the last 2 days before I gave birth. So Sunday, October the 13th, again, I had the contractions all day long, but this time the contractions became more intense than the day before, but were still irregular. I even went out with one of my really good friends for lunch. I did notice that in the middle of our conversations, all of a sudden I would have like really intense contractions, but again, I still thought they were Braxton Hicks contractions at this point. They were intense enough that I would break a sweat and that I would get winded, but not intense enough that I couldn't speak through them or they were super painful. They were still manageable at that point. I did feel a lot of pressure down there when I was having these contractions, but still I was brushing it off as just intense Braxton Hicks contractions. Apparently at this point I was already in pre-labor when I had lunch with my friend that day, and I also managed to go out with my family for dinner. And after dinner, I also managed to walk on my treadmill in my basement for 1 hour. So I have been regularly walking throughout my entire pregnancy for about 45 minutes to an hour every single day. So that was something that I would do in the evening time, usually after dinner, before finishing up some work and then going to bed. For the last few weeks, I was feeling a lot of pressure down there because, you know, obviously baby's head is down, she's moving down. So I thought that was perfectly normal. I didn't think anything of it. And I was having those contractions while I was walking on the treadmill as well, but I was having that sensation for several days before that. So again, I brushed it off. So after my little walk on the treadmill, I went to my office, I finished up some work. So at 10 p.m., my husband and I, Vlad, went to bed, and then the contractions started to become more intense and more regular. So at this point, I'm like, babe, I think we should start timing these just in case, because I feel like I'm having a contraction like every 4 or 5 minutes. Because usually when we would come to bed, we would just, chat a little bit before actually dozing off. And as we were having a conversation, I realized that after every few sentences that I would get out, I was having a contraction. So we decided to use this app that I downloaded. I think it was called Contractions Tracker or something like that. It's actually a really, really good app. It's either called Contractions Tracker or Contractions Timer. We were tracking my contractions for half an hour and we realized that they were about 4 to 5 minutes apart, lasting a little over 1 minute each. So at 10:30 p.m., we then decided to contact one of my doulas and we told her about this. And she said that, because it's my first labor, things progress really slowly and she believes that I could possibly be in pre-labor. And she said that, we shouldn't worry about it and just get a good night's rest. And she didn't think that anything would start happening at least 12 hours away. So she recommended that we just get a good night's sleep and the next day just reevaluate and potentially go to the hospital. So Vlad and I kind of felt uneasy about it. We decided to track my contractions for another 30 minutes just to see how they were progressing. So when we did that, we realized that the contractions were getting a little bit more intense and were more frequent and closer together. So for the second chunk of that half an hour, we realized that the contractions were about 4 minutes apart and again lasting about a minute or a little bit over a minute long. So we decided to call my doula again. We told her that they were getting closer together and they were getting slightly more intense. So again, she said that we could either go to the hospital, but they might send me back if I'm not in active labor, or we can just wait it out at home and just go first thing in the morning. Vlad and I decided that it's better to be safe than sorry, which thank God we did. And we decided to head over to the hospital. So the moment that I got out of bed to go and get dressed and get my hospital bag and everything, my water broke. And even at that point, I wasn't 100% sure that I was going into labor, because I always imagine that when your water breaks, it's like a gush of fluid that comes out of you. And in my case, it literally just felt like a trickle, like I peed myself a little bit. So I wasn't 100% sure. It was a definite sign that things were starting to happen. But I did notice that as soon as my water broke, things started to escalate pretty quickly. And what I mean by that is that the contractions started to get closer and closer together. They started to get more and more intense. And it got to the point where we were in the car, and if I was having a contraction, it was really, really hard for me to pay attention to anything else other than my contractions. And if Vlad happened to speak to me while I was having said contraction, I would have to tell him, please do not talk to me while I'm having these contractions, because I was just trying to practice my hypnobirthing, trying to breathe through them as much as I possibly could and relax my body. And the hypnobirthing was going great up until a certain point in my laboring process, which I will, of course, tell you guys what happened at that point. But while I was in the car, yes, I was extremely uncomfortable because I felt a ton of pressure down there. I definitely felt at this point that things were probably starting to happen. And it was really hard for me to breathe. It was really hard for me to speak while I was having contractions. And it was just a really, really uncomfortable car ride. Basically at 11:30 p.m., we made it to the hospital and we made our way up to triage. And at 12 a.m., I was checked into triage and I was hooked up to monitors to monitor my contractions and also to monitor baby's heart rate. So everything was looking good. The baby was looking good, but the contractions were getting more and more intense very, very quickly. And around 12:30 a.m., the contractions were so painful. I literally had to rip all of the monitors off of me because I could not sit still. I just needed to get up. I needed to walk around. I needed to bend over the bed. And the rooms that we have here in triage, I don't know if this is like that in the States or other parts of the world, but here in Toronto at the hospital that I gave birth in, the triage room was literally like a little closet with a curtain. There wasn't even a proper door. The only things that could fit into that little triage room was a small little bed, there was a little chair, and there was also the computer that was monitoring the baby and the contractions, and that's it. So I was trying to move around, trying to, you know, bend over the bed to try to breathe through the contractions. I had my relaxing music going in the background. So I was really, really trying to practice what I learned with hypnobirthing. But it was getting progressively more and more difficult to do that. At this point, sitting down for me was absolutely excruciating, and I begged for a birthing room so that I would have more space to move around and do whatever I needed to do to labor. But the nurses told me that I would not be able to get a birthing room unless I was at least 4 centimeters dilated. So I asked the nurses to check me. And they actually hesitated to check me because they knew that it was my first pregnancy, and they said that usually when your water breaks, it takes a long time for things to start happening. So if you are even, you know, a little bit dilated, we would be very surprised. So even after they said that, I managed to convince them to check me because I was in so much pain. And when they did check me, they told me that I was only 2 centimeters dilated. And when I heard that, I didn't know what to do, because at this point I'm in so much pain. The contractions were getting closer and closer together. I barely had any time in between to recollect myself, to think, to breathe, to relax my body. And I was seriously considering getting an epidural. Vlad at this point didn't know what to do with himself. He's an amazing partner. He's super supportive. He's always there for me in the best and the worst of times. He's taken care of me in all sorts of situations, but he has never ever in his life seen me in so much pain and has never felt so helpless. And I could just see the color just coming out of his skin. He was so paper white and didn't know what to do with himself. Thank God I had my doula there, but my doula also could not believe that things were escalating so quickly. So she was kind of focused on just making sure that I was relaxed and that I was breathing and all of these things. And she also wanted to encourage me to keep going and not to get an epidural because she knows how important that was to me. So at that point, I felt like, okay, I need someone who really knows me and will really fight for me and be my voice when it comes to getting what I need from these was hospital staff. So I asked my mom to come in. Originally, I just wanted Vlad with me and just my doula, but I felt like I really needed my mommy to help me out, and thank God I did, because she helped me out so much. When she saw the condition that I was in, she was like on top of everything, making sure that the nurses were taking my case seriously. She's like, I know my daughter. If she's saying she's in a lot of pain, she's in a lot of fucking pain, because I usually don't complain. I usually hate taking painkillers for anything. I hate taking any drugs or medication if I don't need to. I always go for the natural route first, and if that doesn't work, then I will consider taking some kind of medication. So anyways, at this point, I'm feeling like crap. There is shit coming out of me from that end. I am also puking my brains out. I felt like I was going to pass out. I was getting the shivers. I literally felt like I was gonna die. So when I was feeling this way, it was around 2 a.m. And again, I begged them to check my dilation again. And again, the nurses hesitated to check me again because they said with a normal pregnancy, a woman typically dilates half a centimeter every hour, and that is considered good progress. So they said the fact that only an hour and a half has gone by, they really doubt that I'm at 4 centimeters, but I was in so much pain that I insisted that they check me, and my mom insisted that they check me. And thank God that they did, because I was already at 4 centimeters. Once they confirmed that I was 4 centimeters dilated, they're like, okay, we can get you a birthing room now. So around 2:30 a.m., a birthing room was available, and they made me walk my way there with my mom, my doula, and Vlad. And guys, the walk from triage to the birthing room that I had to go to was not even that far, but it felt like the farthest, most excruciating walk of my entire life. I literally felt like I was going to give birth in the hallway. I think that walk really did it for me. I feel like it really pushed her down even lower into the birth canal, and probably really escalated the whole dilation process even more. Oh my God. What was supposed to be probably like a 30-second walk was like a 10-minute walk, because with every step I had a crazy contraction. My contractions were so painful and intense at this point, and they were so close together that there literally were no breaks in between. I had no break to breathe, no break to think. I couldn't even speak. All I could do was just yell and just moan and make all of these crazy sounds that I've never made in my life before. And that's the thing, I never ever imagined that that would ever happen to me, because I am not a screamer, I am not a moaner, I don't make all those crazy sounds. When one of my friends gave birth through hypnobirthing, she was also telling me that she was making all these crazy sounds that she hasn't made before. And I'm like, I don't think that's gonna happen to me. I'm like, that's just not who I am. Apparently, it happened to me too. And I think with the acoustics in the hospital, I'm pretty sure that everyone in the hospital heard me moaning and yelling my head off. So after that excruciating walk from triage to the birthing room, I finally made it to the birthing room and immediately had to lie down on my side on the bed that they had in there. Even though there was literally no comfortable position for me to be in, I just felt like lying on my side for some reason was the most bearable, I guess you would say. Like I said, I was having back-to-back contractions. There was no time to catch my breath, no time to recollect myself, no time to practice my hypnobirthing. It was just non-stop excruciating pain. It felt like I was literally being cut open with a saw. I was crying, I was yelling my head off. I literally sounded like I was possessed. And at this point, I was begging for an epidural. And the nurses just kept telling me that they couldn't give me an epidural right now because there was only one anesthesiologist on call, and he was in the OR. So I would have to wait for him, and they didn't know how long it was going to be. It could have been half an hour, it could have been an hour or 2 hours. Basically, they said that I would not be able to get it at the time that I requested it. But if I'm completely honest, I was moving around so much from the pain. I could not sit still. So I don't even know if I would have been a good candidate for epidural to begin with once I got to that point that I was in. So maybe the nurses were just telling me that because they knew that and they just wanted to brush me off, and they knew that, you know, things were progressing a lot faster for me than they expected. I still don't know the answer to that, but around like 3:15, I would say, I was laboring, lying on my side on the bed, and I just remember feeling like literally she was ready to come out. I felt her like lowering herself. I just felt everything just opening up, and it was so excruciating. I stared my mom right in the face and I yelled like a crazy woman. I went, ah, she's coming. And my mom was like, what? She's coming right now? I'm like, yes. And she's like, guys, she said she's coming. Can you check her? And as soon as she said that, one of the nurses, leisurely walked up to me, because no one believes that I'm progressing as fast as I was progressing. So I was literally in the birthing room for about an hour. And before that, they checked me around 2 a.m. So it's only been like an hour and a half since the last time they checked me. So the nurse checks me again, and don't forget, an hour and a half ago, I was at 4 centimeters. And then when she checked me this time, I was already at a 10. So when she realized I was at a 10, she's like, oh my God, you're at a 10. You need to start pushing. All of a sudden, a swarm of nurses came around me, started lifting my legs up, started, telling me, okay, you're gonna start pushing now. There was an amazing head nurse that was part of the staff, and she was in the birthing room with me, and she was guiding me and telling me exactly what to do. And thank God I had her, because I had no idea what I was doing or how to push or anything. But at this point, I realized that no one was gonna help me. The only person that was going to be able to get this baby out was me. And I was trying to remind myself that the only way to make myself feel better in this situation is just to get her out. So once I made this realization, I decided, okay, I'm going to push as hard as I can push to get her out as fast as possible so that I could have some relief. So I started pushing, and I was pushing so hard that I literally popped a bunch of blood vessels under my eyes. I had them all over my chest and my shoulders. I had broken blood vessels in the whites of my eyes for several days. It was a shit show. Oh my God. I had all kinds of crap coming out of me. Vlad was freaking out. He didn't know what to do with himself. He took a chair, put it in a corner because he was turning pale. He was starting to feel nauseous himself. And it's funny because when I envisioned myself going into labor, I always imagined that it would be just him and I, plus maybe like a doula just for support, just to help me out. And he would be standing above my waist, wouldn't really see what's going on down there. But when things actually start happening, especially in my case, I didn't care who saw what. I didn't care what was coming out of me. I just wanted that baby to be out. So this poor guy, in between contractions, he would run to me from his little corner. He would hold my hand. He would say, you're doing amazing. Keep going. I can see her. She's almost there. And as soon as another contraction would come, he would run back to his chair. It was crazy. And thank God my mom was there because she was calming him down. She was being supportive of me and guiding me and everything. The doula was really guiding me and everything. Oh man, but it was crazy. I was pushing for about 15 minutes and I could already see her head. Like the position that they put me in, it was kind of like a curled up like ball position. I had my arms around my legs like this, and every time I would curl my my chin to my chest, I could see everything. So I could literally see her head, like the top of her head coming out of my vagina. And I had the doctor sitting right in front of me, and she was just, super chill. She's like, I can see that you're tearing above your vaginal area into your clitoris. If you continue tearing into your clitoris, it's going to be a very long and painful recovery. And it looks like the baby is not going to come out unless you tear a little bit more. She's like, I could help you out and cut you below your vaginal opening into your perineum, and that will give her more space to come out, and it will be an easier healing process. Would you like me to cut you? And at that point, I'm like, fuck yes, do whatever you need to do. Just get this baby out of me. So that's what she did. She cut me again with no medication, no drugs, no nothing. I literally felt everything. And after she cut me, after a few more minutes of pushing, My baby girl was born at 3:53 a.m. on October the 14th. The moment I heard my baby girl cry was the most emotional and surreal moment of my life. I honestly could not believe that I did that on my own with no drugs, no epidural, no nothing. I had so many endorphins running through my body that I don't think I realized after I birthed her how much pain I was in. I literally felt everything. I felt the head coming out. I felt like the shoulders coming out. I felt everything. Again, I am super happy that at the end of the day I was able to birth her without any drugs or epidural, but it was just crazy. So when she came out, they clamped her cord and they cut her umbilical cord and they put her on my chest. And the first thing she did when they put her on my chest was she looked up at me and she started looking for my nipple, which was insane because my doulas told me that as hard as the laboring process is, breastfeeding is another huge challenge. They told me that many women struggle to breastfeed, and sometimes you have to try 100, 200, 300 times to get the latch on properly and to be able to breastfeed your baby properly. But thank God, as soon as I put her on my chest, she latched on immediately. It's like she knew exactly what to do, and I knew exactly like how to hold her, how to soothe her, and all those things. It's just so crazy because I've always been so uncomfortable with other people's newborns. I didn't know what to do with them because they were so tiny and fragile. But when it's your own child, I don't know, for me personally, it just came so naturally. Maybe because I was waiting for her for such a long time and I had a crazy journey leading up to my pregnancy and having her that, I don't know, maybe it was just different for me. That moment will always be at the forefront of my mind because it was just the most miraculous moment of my entire life. Once they put her on my chest, the doctor was working on stitching me up and just, cleaning everything up down there. And once they did, they covered me, and literally like 5 or 10 minutes after I gave birth, our immediate family came into the birthing room. So it was my mom, my dad, my brother, Vlad's parents, and his sister and her boyfriend. So we had a few minutes together to kind of, replay everything that happened, and they got to meet her, and it was just such a special moment. But of course, I was like in shock. I was in so much pain. It was just such a crazy experience. I'm just so thankful that I had Vlad by my side, that I had my mom by my side, and she was vouching for me. Vlad was also vouching for me, and he was, making sure that the nurses were on top of things, but because he wasn't feeling well and was feeling super nauseous, he wasn't on top of his A game like he normally is. All in all, I'm really happy with the team that I had, my husband, my mom, and my doula, but it was honestly a very traumatic experience for me because everything just escalated so quickly. From the time I came to the hospital to the time that I gave birth to her, it was like less than 4 hours, which is unheard of. All of the staff, my doula, everyone was just in shock by how fast everything transpired. Like towards the end, I went from a 4 to a 10 in the span of like an hour and a half, which is insane. So you can only imagine how intense my contractions were. I literally thought I was gonna die. Thank God I didn't. I'm still here. I feel like a superwoman and that I did what I did, but it does make me wonder what my future labors will be like, and it makes me really worried and terrified that I will not even have a choice to get an epidural or an option to get an epidural if I feel like I really need it. So that's something that I definitely have to work on, and I definitely need some time physically and mentally to recover from this labor. So I'm just focusing on all the positive, focusing on my beautiful baby girl. And again, I just wanted to throw it out there that every pregnancy is different. I completely realize that there's women out there that probably had a more traumatic experience than I did. I don't want to make anyone feel unjustified in their own experience. I'm just sharing my personal story because you guys wanted to hear about it. At the end of the day, I am so grateful to have my beautiful, healthy baby girl. I'm so grateful that For the most part, I had a really easy pregnancy aside from the first trimester. And most importantly, through this entire journey, I have my beautiful baby girl and I fall in love with her more and more every single day. So now that I have shared my very TMI birth story with you guys, I want to introduce you to my sweet little angel. Hi, my angel.
Super bright.
Hi, I know. Я уже соскучилась за тобой, да? Да, моя сладкая девочка. Да. So this is my sweet baby angel. This is my daughter, Ariella Blake, but Mama and Papa like to call her Ari. So her name Ariella in Hebrew means lion of God, and I think that it is very, very fitting because I think she is very strong and fierce, and the way that she came into this world like a fireball says a lot about her. I can already tell that she is going to be a very independent and determined little lady. She's smiling because she agrees. Like from the way that she immediately latched on to me and all of her very distinct mannerisms that she has been showing us so far, I can already tell that she's going to be really, really strong. So yeah, this is my sweet baby girl. You want to say hi, YouTube? So as I'm filming this video, she is 12 days old. I have to be completely honest, these last 12 days have been the most difficult days of my life, but they have also been the most rewarding. I have learned so much through this experience, not only about myself, but about, you know, being a mom. I have so much more respect and appreciation for all of the moms, especially working moms, you know, that have babies and take care of their families. I honestly think that you guys are super women and you deserve a huge pat on the back, and I think you guys are amazing. So since I did officially announce her birth on Instagram, I have received so many beautiful messages from you guys, so I wanted to thank you for all of your love and support and well wishes and positive encouragement. I am trying to story some of the moments that I'm experiencing through motherhood, the good and the bad. I'm showing everything and being really candid and raw, and it seems like a lot of you guys are really, really appreciating that. So if you guys do want more like up-to-date updates, I would highly suggest following me over on Instagram because I usually post those stories same day that I took them. Whereas with YouTube, everything is a little bit delayed because I'm a one-woman show. I'm doing all the content creation, all the filming, all the editing myself, so I can't always get a video up as soon as I film it. So yeah. That is all that I wanted to share with you guys in today's video. I wanted to introduce you guys to her before I start sharing my journey to conceiving her, because I do think it is an important part of the story, and I did promise you guys that I would share that publicly. So that video will be coming very, very soon. So again, I want to thank all of you guys for all of your well wishes and positive encouragement and for all of your love and support. And I will see you guys very, very soon.